Of course, as a narrator, it's completely incoherent, but it seems to reveal, I mean, this legal twister that Rudy is engaged in full view of the press and public, seems like a pretty blatant tell that he's really racking up the legal exposure and legal problems.
That's exactly right, Nicole. It's a Giuliani versus Giuliani. And, you know, he's got a technical legal argument that, well, he admitted he was lying only for purposes of that one proceeding last month. And, you know, Vaughn's right to say it can't strictly be used against him in the Georgia criminal prosecution. But remember, Rudy is out there in the cameras. He's not talking in a court. He's talking to the public. And it's absolutely admissible in trying to understand what Rudy's coherent defense is. He doesn't have one. And whatever he said today contradicts what he told the court last month. And so he may have a strict legal argument, but in terms of the court of public opinion, in terms of whether this guy who used to be one of our most respected mayors, one of our most respected prosecutors, has, you know, gone over to the dark side, and, you know, just think about like the Spider-Man principle or the biblical principle, you know, to whom great power is given, great responsibility inheres. I mean, this guy blew every part of it. And when you listen to him today, and when you listen to Donald Trump today, they're calling their criminal arrests an act of patriotism. And I suppose they can say that. I guess they can also say their mugshots are some sort of supermodel photo shoot, and their time at the Fulton County Jail is some sort of slumber party, or whatever other nonsense they want. But at the end of the day, they're facing very serious criminal charges for trying to install a coup and hijack the election and take our votes away from us. And all the, you know, bloviating and Four Seasons landscaping style behavior that they have is not going to hide that fundamental basic fact. And that's what we're seeing playing out on the cameras today, and what we'll see playing out tomorrow on the cameras.
I want to deal with some of the substance of what he's saying, because it's not true. I mean, before he left, he talked about, this was his statement. I'm not going to play it. I'm just going to read it. Don't roll this. He said, they're destroying my right to counsel, my right to be a lawyer. They're destroying his right to counsel, his being Trump. It's not accidental that they've indicted all his lawyers. He goes on to say, I've never heard of that. It doesn't happen in America. Well, you know, Pat Cipollone didn't get indicted, neither did Eric Hirschman. In fact, they're two of the star witnesses of the congressional investigation into the coup that they're now charged with helping to make happen. I mean, Richard Donahue didn't get charged. I mean, there are tons of lawyers who didn't get charged with crimes, only the lawyers that helped Trump carry out the crimes. Can you talk about how dangerous it is to suggest that lawyers are now being targeted in an unprecedented way?
Yeah, Rudy's right. It's no accident that Trump's lawyers are being targeted. It's because it's no accident that Trump picked not lawyers to serve a legal function. He picked, you know, henchmen to help plot the coup. And that's not zealous advocacy. And we've already had that decided in D.C. with the federal judge who said attorney-client privilege should be pierced with respect to the stolen documents investigation, because these attorneys were actually in on it, helping. And that's what's happening right now with, for example, John Eastman or Jeff Clark. These are not people zealously advocating for their clients. That's what Eastman said yesterday to the cameras, Nicole. I was just zealously advocating for my clients through lawful and appropriate means. No. That's filing a lawsuit. And certainly some Trump lawyers did that. They filed 62 lawsuits. They lost them all. That's lawful means. What these folks were doing was trying to go outside of the courts. They were trying to say, okay, we lost 62 times, even all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, but now we'll do something extrajudicial. And that was this whole plot to try and have fake electors and to have all sorts of even violence, as Roger Stone called for, to try and supercharge their bogus legal theory, to say, oh, there's a cloud over the election. Now it should be up to state legislatures, not we the people, to pick the next president. I mean, that is as corrosive a thing as you can imagine in American democracy. That's why these prosecutions are happening. They're not happening because people want to get Trump or something like that. They're happening because he took the most sacred principle we have, which is our right to self-determination, our right to vote, what we fought against King George III all about, and he spit on it. And he didn't just spit on it in any general way. He did it in a way to just benefit himself, to self-deal, use his executive powers to try and keep himself in power for another term.
You know, Greg, as I watch them make their way. It's crazy to even utter the sentence "to the jail," but I'll say it as they make their way to the jail. They're there because a couple of Republicans in the state of Georgia who were enthusiastic Trump backers, who worked for his reelection, who voted for him, and supported a lot of what he was for, not just because he was popular in Georgia, but because they supported him in his campaign to be president again. They're the reason he's there. I mean, without Raffensperger making that tape public, without Kemp and Raffensperger testifying before the grand jury that Fani Willis convened, I'm not sure that they all would have been sort of swept up and charged with their roles in a criminal enterprise. Is that sort of lost on anyone in Georgia, or is that sort of in front of everyone every day?
Yeah, it's front and center, right? Even during the 2022 campaign, I should say, Stacey Abrams said, look, we shouldn't reward Brian Kemp just because he wasn't a traitor. But look, if you had another governor, if you had a pro-Trump or someone who was willing to promote these lies and election fraud conspiracies, you could have had a governor who didn't certify Joe Biden's win. That's something that Governor Kemp did. If you had a different attorney general, he could have joined the Texas lawsuit to try to overturn and invalidate Georgia's election results. Attorney General Chris Carr didn't do that. And of course, if you had a different Secretary of State, you might not have seen the pushback on Donald Trump trying to urge Brad Raffensperger to find just enough votes to overturn his election defeat.
Greg, I feel like we've tracked you down in your car, all sorts of places where you have generously turned on the camera and come and helped us understand what's happening in Georgia and why Georgia. And I just wonder, at a personal level, what does it feel like to see all these figures that have become national news because of their effort to find 11,780 votes in Georgia and other places for Trump? What is it like to see all them make their pilgrimage to the jailhouse?
It's really interesting. I was thinking about this earlier today. What's the biggest story I've ever covered? And, this is one of them, but it had to be 2020 because 2020 was when all this started. And I was at the Capitol when Rudy Giuliani was promoting those lies and falsehoods to Georgia lawmakers that he's now facing charges for. I was at the Capitol when those fake electors met in room 216 of the Georgia State Capitol. And I was one of the two reporters who stumbled upon that meeting and was told to turn away because it was an educators meeting. So it's really unique, having lived through all this, and now to see it up close and personal. Well, I'm in Milwaukee right now, but I will see it up close and personal tomorrow at the jail as Donald Trump turns himself in to face the music.
And David, we should say he's in Milwaukee because that's where the Republican debate is, to see if anyone other than a 4 times indicted individual will be the nominee of the Republican Party. Judge Luttig said something on the show yesterday that sort of imprinted in my brain and made me sort of rethink how we cover these stories. He said, these cases are not political in nature. These people have been indicted for grave crimes that they committed. This is not a political story. It is a grave criminal story.
Yeah, about corruption and the use of corruption to try to steal an election and to disenfranchise voters in the state of Georgia and nationally, as Neil rightly pointed out. And I think as it feels more and more real on the ground in Georgia for viewers, it certainly feels more and more real for Rudy Giuliani and Cheeseborough and Powell and others who are now going through the process of being arrested. And I'm curious, with 19 co-defendants, there's this theory in criminal practice called prisoner's dilemma, which essentially suggests if all 19 stick together, it's harder for Fani Willis to bring her prosecution. It's not impossible. She has evidence that she has gathered over the months and years. But if all 19 stay on the same story, it gets a little harder. Mm-hmm. The likelihood of all 19 sticking together in this is pretty low. And so I think what you have to start to look at is who begins to break, who begins to say all of this was at the direction of Donald Trump. Because if I'm lower in that group of 19, either I can't afford a criminal attorney, I want to stay out of jail, or any deal's good enough to keep me with my family. I think as this gets more real for the co-defendants, that's what we start to look for.